name's Alex Van Dyne, and I'm a human being with feelings and knowledge, and I want to share those feelings and knowledge with you today in one of my first tutorials about using code in Cinema 4D, and specifically focusing on Python, because I personally think Python is the greatest tool for a graphics artist to have in his back pocket. It has saved me a lot of time, a lot of headache, and it's allowed me to kind of understand how the program works at a fundamental level. And that also helps, even if you're not using code, just knowing how this code works is really important. So the first thing I want to talk about is the different ways that Cinema 4D lets you access and use code within it. So the first thing that I want you to take a look at is the script manager. So a script is basically a set of code that runs one time. Click execute and it runs once. And in this case, if you do file new script, it'll create a basic template for you. And so the first part of this is importing C4D, and then from C4D it's importing GUI. And what does this mean? Well, in Python you import what are called modules, and then you can access commands within them, and it makes it a lot easier to write code because you don't have to start from scratch. You can kind of use these pre-built commands, and in this case, if you notice, we're importing GUI, and in the next section of code right here we're actually using GUI dot, so that's accessing something in GUI, and in this case it's a command called message dialog, and within the brackets here it says hello world. And so if I click execute, there you go, we get a message dialog that says hello world. Now another way that you can and lastly, this last piece of code right here is something that just makes the code run. If the name equals main, which is always going to be true, then run main, and this is main right here. This is the main function. So the next piece of or tool I want to take a look at is something called a Python generator, and that's in the same menu here under script. It's right here, Python generator. And the way this works is essentially it's almost like a plugin. If you ever use any kind of plugins, this is an object that holds code and returns, in this case, a cube, right? And so if I open the Python editor and we take a look, it's importing C4D, and then the main function is just automatically run, so it doesn't have that little extra piece of code at the bottom, and it's returning C4D, right, dot base object, and then within the brackets C4D dot O cube. And this C4D dot O cube is basically just a number that Cinema 4D recognizes. And actually the way you can kind of find this is if you go to Window, Customize Commands, and I type in cube and click on this, this ID is what C4D O cube is returning. So it's returning, if I actually copy this and just get rid of this, and paste it, oops, and delete ID and click execute, nothing changes because it's the same thing, right? If I want to do something else like a plane, this guy, I can copy this, paste it in here, execute, and now I have a plane. So that C4D dot O cube is just an easier way to read, and actually I spelled that wrong. There we go. Nope. O cube. There we go. It's just an easier way to read the code instead of having numbers everywhere. But alright, and so that's the Python generator. Now what this does is actually, if I were to go in here and type print hello, and we open up the console, right, and click execute, it's going to print hello, right? And if I play through this, it only prints it one time, and that's on the first frame, so it's calculating once. That's because this optimized cache is turned on. If I turn this off, you'll notice it starts printing hello whenever there's an update. inside Cinema 4D. And at this point, you can't even tell if it's printing. You can look at this little guy here. You'll notice it's getting smaller and smaller. But yeah, so you got to be careful with this, because with optimized cache turned off, it can actually crash a program. If you're doing some heavy calculations over and over and over again, it'll really slow down your system. So just be wary of that. The next piece of, I keep saying piece, it's not a piece. The next tool that we want to use is a Python tag. And a Python tag is actually going to update the same way that an Espresso tag would update. So let me clear this, and I'll say print hello, execute. And so if I play through, every frame it's doing hello, and under certain circumstances, let's clear this out, I believe if I select the object or the tag, it's updating. So it works similar to an Espresso tag, but it just runs this code. You have to be careful with this as well, because it can crash your system if it's updating with some heavy code. So the last thing I want to show you guys is what's called an Espresso Python node, or at least that's what I call it. So if we make an Espresso tag and we go to new node Espresso script Python, right here we have a specialized node where actually I can delete these ports, or actually no, let's undo that. Because if you look here at the code that comes with it, it's taking output 1, and you have to make the outputs global, otherwise it can't get them out. And then output 1, so this equals input 1 plus input 2. So here's input 1 and 2. So you can actually make as many inputs as you want with as many different types of variable types that you want. So in this case, I can make a link, and I can rename this. So you can rename the port. We'll call it object link. Rename this port object link. No spaces. Can't have spaces. And we can make a object and take that and plug it right in. And now I can use object link in my code somewhere. So I could say, well, you guys get it. I don't need to go in. I'll go into more detail with these later, but I'm just trying to show you the different possibilities of how you can kind of take your code and hook it into Cinema. So that's it for the first lesson. The next lesson is going to go over actually writing some code. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You stay classy. Keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Word.